I'll be, I confess to be crazy over you and me. Hey, here's what I'll do, I'll play loose. Not like we have a day with destiny. Oh, well, it's just a little cry. Not like I faint every time we touch. It's just a little thing. Not like everything I do depends on you. Sha-la-la-la. Hey. Guys, that song bangs. That song bangs. That song bangs. Like, if you don't know what I just sang, do yourself a favor. Crush Jennifer Page. It's an old song. The 90s kids, not the 2000s kids. The 90s kids will know what's going on, because that song is a banger. Like, do yourself a favor, go listen to that song. It's a banger. It's like how to explain it? It's like, it's the music, like, it's one of those songs that like lives so perfectly in the early 2000s. Like it embodies, like, it's in that space. I think there's also a music video, and like that music video is also very 2000s, like big belts, like jeans that are sitting on your hips. I don't know. The one thing I will say though, that I'm happy we left in the 2000s was low-rise jeans. I see them trying to make a comeback, and I feel like they have made a comeback, but I'm not jumping on that. I'm so sorry, guys. Low-rise jeans were weird. They were so weird. And like uncomfortable also, like so low that like legit one bend it's over. But I guess that's what gave way to the fact that like people would wear like for all those who don't know what was going on in the 2000s, it was a mess. We were there, we were present, and we were in it. But it gave rise to the uptake of people wearing like G-string thong thingies that had decor on them. So it would be a thing where like it was supposed to be seen. So like if you bend over, people could see like the diamantes on your G-string thong. Like, okay, this episode is really starting weird, but it's fine because the topic is strange. And the song is linked, but the little rabbit hole I just went on isn't. So, whatever. Anyway, let's begin this thing, shall we? Okay, cool. Welcome to the Potential Podcast with Tracy Lee. This is episode 26 if you count the trailer, and 25 if you don't. Because I'm actually in the effort of keeping up with my thangs, because by the time you're listening to this, you are super impressed with me, because yes, there are episodes. Yes. This is one of 4 I'm going to have uploaded. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I a production house? Am I like changing the world? Okay, not changing the world, let's also calm down. But like, am I growing? Am I different? I don't know, babies. I don't know. Anyway, welcome, /welcome back. Ooh, actually, I just said something. So one of the video essay hands that I'm a fan of, her name's Khadija. And I actually mentioned her in one of the other episodes when I started talking about my, like, essay format, whatever. She's, like, one of my little essay format heroes. And she literally says, like, welcome back. And I'm like, that's cute. And now I said it. But I like to give credit where credit is due. Anyway. Yeah, guys, this one has taken me a while to sit down and record because, 1, I was overthinking it. 2, it touches on a lot of personal stuff that I've been thinking about for a while, especially since this weird little journey that I've been on in the past just over a year. Because, yeah, guys, like... life will literally just come at you. Like, you know how the kids are like, that person ate and left no crumbs. And I know it's a compliment, but sometimes I sit there and I'm like, you guys' compliments don't sound like compliments. They sound like things that really, like, signify that we're going through it. And I feel like life truly did. No, actually, let me rather say life chewed me up and spit me out and then made me go back and ask why. because I had to keep going. Anyway, but I'm in better spirits, as we know. So, like, I'm not saying I'm not grateful to God for putting me through what I've been through and stuff like that. And let me also just take a second and realize that, like, my life hasn't been complete trash. So I'm not going to sit here and act as if, like, everything burnt down. Like, no, man, I have a great life. I do. It just wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. You know what I mean? And not even measuring it against others, just measuring it against my expectations of me, you know? But we all know this because that's how this podcast started, literally. So here we are. Yes, so this episode was a long time in the making. And the episode is actually about limerence, the 4 loves, and self-confidence. So I'm just going to name it that, I guess. I don't know if that's what I'm going to name it by the time I'm done recording. It depends on what idea comes to me. I name these things when I'm done recording because maybe something comes to me while I'm recording. Anyway, but that is the topic. That is what we're discussing. That's what we're addressing in this episode because, yeah, man, I've been thinking about this for a while. And the reason I've been thinking about this for a while is I've been interacting with, based on my last episode, we already know that I love a little bit of a romantic trope or a romantic piece of content or whatever it is. And I realized that I addressed, like, all the fun things I love about that space, but I don't think I've truly addressed maybe the little bit of the darker side of what it's done to my brain. I actually was on a friend's podcast. Shout out to That Husband podcast. If you're, ever thinking about watching husbands talk about being husbands and just like life and stuff, it's actually a really good podcast. They had me on and we were discussing kind of my views on love and where they came from and stuff like that. And obviously the K-drama episode, which you would have listened before this, because come on, I'm a content queen. Yes, I'm proud of myself for posting. Guys, like, please, we should be proud of me that it's not taking 2 months, huh? We should be proud of me. We should be proud of me. So I'm proud of me, right? And I'm recording right now because I would like to put another one out there because I'm trying to do a back-to-back, baby, a quadruple, baby. I'm trying to make sure that you got content on a monthly basis, baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Also, I just have a lot to talk about and I feel like talking about my own nonsense. So yeah. Anyway, what the hell, Tracy? Where was I going? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So that episode, yeah, we spoke about just like views on love and where they came from, whatever. And I spoke about my parents' divorce and how that affected me, because that's actually why he invited me on the podcast. And I realized that a big portion of who I am as a person has been anchored on, I guess, my views on love and relationships and how I see my life playing out. I like to tell people, I'm like, my purpose and plan for my life is not very feminist, I'll own it. But I just, from as far as I remember, in my adulthood anyway, actually not even, maybe even adulthood, but like for as long as I remember, I've always thought about the fact that the thing that I've always wanted to be more than anything is a mom. And literally it's mom first. I'm not going to say wife, it's mom. And as life has progressed and I've grown in my faith, obviously being a mom means you have to do the thing that means that you have to marry somebody, which kind of, if I'm honest, kind of like landed me in, okay, I guess I have to be a wife first. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this obviously knowing the facts and the truth and, the way things should happen as a believer. But like, I'm just being honest and I'm telling the truth. That's not the path I was trying to get on. Legit. Any friend who's known me for an extended amount of time knows that being a mom was my number one priority, like for adulthood. That's it. That was my goal. I was like, look, I'm just going to do what I need to do to end up being a mom. Like, that's the goal. That's the purpose. That's where I'm going. And that being said, as much as that was a thing, like, it's weird. I've never really romanticized being a mom, but I think in the process of growing in my faith and being a believer of Christ and like, just growing as a Christian, I realized that there is a reason why, people need to get married to do the do and make babies, but like, to get married and provide that household, because like then I was like, okay, cool, and this is a natural progression as opposed to just me like being like, I believe now, so I should change my mind. No, it's more like, it's just, stats and facts. And obviously I haven't actually done the research because that's not the point of this episode. I'm just going on a path, but I'm explaining why we're here. But so that's the math say that children do better in a 2-parent household. Obviously even better in a loving 2-parent household with people who actually love each other and actually want to be together and all of that stuff. But like, like it's good for the kids. And I'm like, if I want to be a mom, then I want my kids to have the best shot at being humans as possible. You know what I mean? Like, I can't make it the whole big hoo-ha and then not make the efforts to give these little tiny people I forced into this world the best chance that they can get, Anyway, so that being said, then the having a relationship element kind of, tied itself on or like hitched itself onto the wagon that was, I guess, my purpose and plan. If you know anything about me, or if you haven't figured it out by now, none of that has happened. I am not married and I don't have children. Okay. So I just want to clarify so that you understand where we're going with this. Anyway, so that was always my plan. That was always the thing I was going to be doing with my life. And then obviously when you live in constant thought about that thing, you know what I mean? Granted, one could also argue that this became an idol. Yes. I own. Yes, I hear you. But I'm just saying, that's my truth, yo. I'm just saying words. Anyway, so as a result, a romantic relationship and all of that stuff kind of hitched itself onto the wagon of that, right? So I'm like, cool, I want to be a wife and mom. That's the thing I want to do. And as a result, I think I've always had, just as a girl, I've always been like, oh my gosh, romance is so beautiful, love is so beautiful, blah, 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 right? So it's just the fact that it wasn't like my number one priority, because I was just like, it's so fickle, it's so shaky, like people can just choose not to be happy with you, and then what? But I got there eventually. So now I had this vision of, okay, cool, now romantic relationship and all of that stuff is now hitched onto the wagon of the thing I really, 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 really want for my life. So that grew its own little horns and became its own little monster. And now we're here. And this is why we're talking about limerence. Now, limerence is a word that I recently learned. And actually, we'll get to the definition of limerence now. I just wanted to kind of address how we ended up here. Oh, yes. And then the other thing that also ended us up here is I've been listening to a lot of just content speaking to the decentering of romantic love. The decentering of romantic love or romantic relationships, and focusing on all of the other things that you have, like in your life and all the other types of love and whatever. But we'll kind of touch on that as we go into like the 4 love section of this whole thing. But that's kind of what led us to this space. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more context and background on my experience with the things we're about to talk about, because obviously that's the point. Otherwise, you could just Google this or type it into ChatGPT and get all the facts I'm about to share with you. So you're on this ride because I'm talking. So let's do this together, shall we? Anyway, cool. So yeah, the big thing that kind of came of all of this is, why do we elevate romantic love above other types of love? And how does this obsession with romantic love affect your self-worth? Oh, yes, I didn't touch on the self-confidence, but we'll get to that in my own personal story. But yes, part of this whole thing is keeping in mind, like I said, this has been the mission, the plan, the idea, the thing I've been wanting to do for the rest, for my lifetime, for as far as I remember, and it's not happening. And now I'm like, okay, is there something wrong with me? I had a technical difficulty, and oh, for the sake, man, nah, why are you being stupid? Anyway, sorry, guys. Had a technical difficulty, had to unlock, then relock, it's a whole thing. Anyway, we're here now. What was I saying? Oh, yes, so, yeah, the thing I was chatting about was, is there something wrong with me? Is there something about where I'm at, or the thing about trying to find your validation via other people is the fact that when those other people don't give you the validation that you're requiring, it automatically just builds you up to not getting that validation. So, and then also the fact that your value is there, and if that value is not given to you, then you start feeling some kind of way. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. So yes, we're going to be introducing the concept of limerence, which in a very short definition in a very short definition is intense obsessive infatuation. So it's a crush, but like is deep, it's real. And yeah, how it differs from other types of love. Also in this episode, we're going to talk about why romantic love is often seen as superior to other forms of love, especially referencing C.S. Lewis's Four Loves. I actually really like the way that C.S. Lewis like unpacks different types of love. Also, it's biblical, which was really great as well. So I figure, why not? And then also talking about the fact that the prioritization of romantic love can really negatively affect your self-confidence and self-worth. Let's now go back to exactly how we ended up here. I wanted to talk about limerence because of the fact that I heard it in a podcast. Actually, a friend of mine suggested another podcast to me. There was this really cool chick, and she was talking to author. I think, what was the author writing about? Oh, I can't remember, bruh. Anyway, the point is, she was chatting to this author who I think actually she's just I think she's a fictional writer, if I'm not wrong. And she was chatting about the fact, no, she's not a fictional writer. She was writing a book about romanticizing your life or something like that. And she was chatting about the fact that she had to research the word limerence. And when she described it, because she was talking about it like for herself and whatever it is. And I'm actually going to define limerence because I feel like it's actually going to help us, and then we'll talk about my personal connection because I realize it's not going to be in a good order. Anyway, so limerence was coined by a psychologist named Dorothy Tenov. It's an intense emotional state of being in love, often characterized by obsessive thoughts and longing for reciprocation. Limerence is often confused with romantic love, but it's more compulsive and idealized. The characteristics of limerence are intrusive, involuntary thoughts about the person, intense longing for reciprocation and emotional highs and lows, idealization of the person and unrealistic expectations. The contrast between limerence and mature love is obviously limerence is quite deep and intense and very obsessive. As opposed to, mature love obviously being, actual, reciprocated, healthy, I love you, you love me type of energy. Pretty much what limerence is, if we just had to, cut it down to, normal, non-doctor speak, is a very intense crush. But not even just crush, because in the case of the podcast I was listening to, these were two females who had been in relationships, and the big thing that limerence did to damage those relationships was the fact that they had ideas of the people they were with. They had this pre-built kind of notion of what the relationship should look like, and that screwed with the reality. And just that's why I can't really use crush, because crush is very one-sided. We've all just you decide by yourself that you like this person a lot. You haven't really, you might know a little bit about them, but you don't know them as your partner. You just know them as, the object of your affections. And I, as a person, have been through a lot of very intense crushes in my lifetime. And I feel like an intense crush is cool and great. The only thing is, there's a point where intense crushes as an adult gets a little weird. You know what I'm saying? It gets a little weird. And that is exactly why I wanted to do this episode and what the personal connection is. Obviously, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on in my life and who I am and how I move. And I guess also just kind of lead down. And then we'll get to the facts and stuff. I just figured let me share a little bit about myself and why this topic really hit me hard. Because I didn't realize that as an adult you could experience these deep and intense feelings of it's weird. You're not attached necessarily to a person, but you're more attached to the idea of them, the potential of them. Yes. And as we all know, I have a thing for potential. So, yeah, I am very heavily inclined as a person to create worlds. I'm talking about, I can write the whole story of how this relationship is going to play out in detail. And I'm sure most females can do this and we just don't admit it. But like, I'm saying it out loud. In detail. You know what I'm saying? Of what our life could look like. Obviously, this is like the point of this exercise is not to verify what I'm doing is right. It's just making a point that it's the way I am. And I didn't realize that it was like, one, that it had a nice little psychological term for it. Come on, limerence. Also, limerence sounds shiny. Is it me? Have you ever listened to a word and been like, it sounds like something weird? Like, limerence sounds shiny. It sounds like a cute word. Like, it sounds like a fun word. And it describes something so bad. But, like, it's such a fun word. Anyway, so I didn't realize that these were real experiences that people were having and going through. I just thought I had, like, an immature view of love. Mostly just because I haven't experienced, I personally think, I don't know, like, I wouldn't define it as love. I don't think I've experienced romantic love before. So I think that's what it is because of the fact that I've never felt real romantic love before. And because I've never felt it, it still has the shiny, glittery, like it can be like the movies energy on it. Because no one's broken my heart or like made me feel like I need to break up with my idea of love. Like, I've never experienced that. Like, I've had exes, and in those relationships, it was always, I feel like I never got deep enough, but we'll get there, because that's part of story time. But anyway, so, this might be 2 parts, but anyway, we're here, because I just realized I have a lot to say on this episode. This is why I don't want to record it, because I was just like, I have so much to say. Anyway, but yeah, let's just talk about me for a second. So, I personally, I call myself a 0 to 100 type of gal, simply just because, and like I said, I think this speaks to what I just spoke to now, where I'm like, I haven't experienced real romantic love, and I don't think I've learned the lessons and the reality of what it looks like. I don't think, and I genuinely don't think so. And that being said, I think it's the reason I am able to continue with the fantasy of the idea I have of romantic love, because I've said to a couple friends before that I've experienced all other types of love in great intensity and great hurts and anguish, whatever it is, but I haven't experienced romantic love. And it's the one type of love that I haven't let kind of into my lexicon of who I am, which, like, to me feels weird. Granted, this might be because of the fact that I've spent all this time consuming all of this romantic content, the rom-coms, the sitcoms, all of that stuff. So it might be the fact that I am making myself feel like it's missing when it actually isn't. And we'll get to the whole, prioritizing romantic relationships over and what it has done to me. And I'm sure still is doing, because I'm not getting off the train. But, I'm a work in progress, guys. This is not about me being completely fixed. This is about me just talking about my stuff. Anyway, so I call myself a 0 to 100 girl. And I say this because I'm of the thought, and this is actually why the arranged marriage episode is a thing. So you see how it's all coming together now. It's all coming together with a castle. Anyway, because I'm like, look, let's just make a decision and then just keep making that decision. Granted, obviously, after vetting the fact that you're both not terrible human beings and like the nonsense in your lives is sorted, you know what I mean? Like the practicalities being sorted. But after the practicalities and you're not a trash person and I'm not a trash person, at least to our knowledge right now, let's just pick each other and then just keep picking each other until we die. Like, that's legit. I want to say that this oversimplified view of relationships and love is not how I think, but it is. It really is. And like I said, I very much own and disclaim that this might be because of the fact that I haven't experienced true heartbreak, or I haven't experienced someone really like, like showing me what love feels like and then losing it. Like all the dramatics that make you like come back to earth on all of this. I haven't experienced it. So I'm also just like, why not? You dig me? Like, why not? Anyway. So being a 0 to 100 girly, it's a thing where when I meet somebody or I date or whatever it is, I'm just like, yo, can we just make a decision that we're doing this? Like, because I do feel like we overthink feelings and vibes and all of those things. I'm like, guys, we make a decision every day, every minute, every hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, we make decisions all the time, and it really is just a decision. Like, obviously, there are heart flutteries, there are emotions, there are things that cannot be explained by logic that still add to all of this. But I feel a lot of it is just deciding. And I think maybe it's also because of the fact that I've seen relationships where the strongest portion of the relationship, even though they had the love and the magic, was the fact that they chose each other every day. Like, that was the thing. And I was like, cool, let's just get to the part where we choose each other every day, and then the love stuff, we'll figure it out later. This is why the arranged marriage episode making more sense now? Is it making more sense? Do you get it now? Anyway, so yeah, like, that's kind of how we ended up here. And as a result of that, I have these very strong, ingrained beliefs about romantic relationships and how they should be and all of that stuff. And as I get older, I feel like they're not lessening. Like, I'm like, I really wish someone could just... And I wish I could even say my ex, but not even. Like, I wish someone could just, like, make me fall in love and then break up with me. And, oh, no. Yo, I take that back. Oh, my gosh. I just realized what I'm putting out there. Heavenly Father, I rebuke what I just said. But you know what I'm saying? Just so that I can feel and understand what it is that is the hype, like, with romantic relationships. Anyway, okay. So, this all... is obviously just stemming from the fact that I am a hopeless romantic. It's deep and strong within me. But also I have this like thing where I'm like, cool, yes, I'm a hopeless romantic and I want the heart flattery fancies. But I also have like this realist view. And I say realist with quotation marks because have I experienced it, so can I say it's real? But realist view of how I see love actually playing out on a day-to-day. And this has all played out in various different crazy ways in my life, my friends. Yeah. Like, before I decided that I want to get married and then have babies, I was down to just like, just get myself inseminated, get a sperm donor, have a baby, move on with my life. Like I have played out every version of this scenario in depth, in detail, my friends. But yeah, this all just kind of led me here, and it led me to this place where I'm like, is this all very detrimental to me, especially considering it's not actually actively happening in my life? Because you can't be like centering something in your life that isn't even there. You dig me? Like, I'm not in a romantic relationship. Why is it something I think about on a daily basis? Like, huh? And then another thing that I did want to mention, I actually should have mentioned this in the arranged marriage episode, but I can kind of mention it now, is I realized that there are gaps in my knowledge, because that's what I'm admitting here. There are gaps in my knowledge, there are gaps in my experience, because as much as, yes, I have a very practical view of relationships, as well as a very fanciful view, I'm a weirdo. Like, I'm two extremes in one person, which is weird. Like, I'm like, no, let's just practically pick each other every day. But then on the flip of that, I want that to be beautiful and play out like a K-drama. Anyway, but I realized that I've never experienced that, the je ne sais quoi, I call it the magic, the actual love portion that makes it all make sense. You know, the thing that makes you make the decision to choose each other every day. I'm just like, isn't it just a rational choice? Like, I choose, you choose, we chose. But yeah, and it's just that I haven't experienced. So yeah, it's a mess, guys. It's a mess. And this is why, like I said, this episode was gonna always be chaos because I have so many thoughts and I'm unpacking this as I'm actively living it out. I'm not sitting here at a resolved place. I'm sitting here I have thoughts and I have ideas and I just want to put them out there and just have a conversation about them. But yeah, so this journey it's taken me various different directions. I mean, initially just started as having like serious crushes on people that I was like, oh my gosh, this person would be a great partner for me. The really funny thing is I would like evaluate people based off of like practicality. I've always done it. I thought about it now and I'm like, I've always done it. I think I did it in high school as well, where I'd be like, I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, I want the hottest guy. I'd be like, oh, that guy is like his friend's friend, you know, like the guy that not everybody is chasing, but like he's cool, he has swag. Like I've always had a thing about enjoying someone's vibe, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, if your vibe is giving, and even with my crushes with people I didn't interact with in high school, but I was in an all-girls school, so that was also worse. But like it would be a thing where like at socials I'd just like see this person interact with like people and I'd be like, yo, that would be so nice, and like build worlds. I'm talking about worlds. I was like, if I was his girlfriend, this is what it would look like, you know, this is where we would go. And then obviously as I've like gotten older, I wish I could say I stopped, but as I've gotten older, it's just kind of evolved, because with more life experience and just not just more content but more life being lived, you build bigger and bigger versions of those worlds. And I think the thing that led me to the place that I'm at now, where I'm like, I need to maybe work on that and stop decentering, is I've realized that it can be quite detrimental. It can leave you feeling very drained, and I think that's why I identify with the concept of limerence, is because it's not actually, no, let's not water it down. It gets a little obsessive. It gets a little like, you know, this is what we're doing because of this. You know, like having an adult crush is also very weird, guys. It's a very strange exercise. Like, you act funny, but like, because you're grown, you don't act like teenage funny, which is obvious, but like, you act grown funny. Like, you know that you're just doing a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense. And like, it's a strange situation. It's all very odd and strange. And I just thought about it and I was like, how am I stretching myself and pulling myself in all of these emotional little tangles for someone who barely even knows not barely knows I exist. At least I've met most of the people I have crushes on or whatever it is, but like, stretching myself for the idea of a relationship that could potentially happen between us, and trying to lay down the foundations for this relationship that this other person hasn't even signed on for. Let's keep in mind. Like, I want that noted. That's why I'm like, I'm gonna play between the words crush and limerence, because it's the truth. Like, it's so easy to just be like, when someone talks to you or you get on with someone and you're like, ooh, this is what we would look like together. It would be so cute. And when you are romantically inclined and you stay in this mental space, it screws with you a little, bro. Like, it really does. And yeah, like, I actually wrote some stuff down about what having a crush is like. You know what I mean? And I'm going to read it as I wrote it. I'm not going to edit it. I mean, I might. I don't know. But anyway. Having a crush is like taking every little thing and thinking it's the break. It's the moment that everything is going to change. I don't know if I truly have a severe obsession with the objects of my limerence, or the dopamine and the potential of what it could be. Maybe I don't even have crushes on people anymore, but rather I have a crush on the idea of love. Its beauty, its intensity, the fact that I don't understand it, nor have I experienced it, makes me want it all the more. maybe the solution is not finding love, but rather realizing that I have been in love with the idea of it this whole time. And that this relationship I have with love is the thing I love, as opposed to actually wanting another human being or like a man in my life to fulfill that purpose. Also watching people being in love, as much as it should make me sadder, it fills me. It makes me feel like I understand it a bit more. And like right now where I'm at, like I watch people being in love and I don't feel like, I've said this before, I'm like, I don't feel envy necessarily of the situation. I more feel like I feel envy that they're in the bubble. Like I think I just want to be in the bubble. You get, like, and obviously I guess being in the bubble is being in love. So being in a relationship, being in love. But like, I just think I like the idea of love a lot more. And I think I experienced this with my ex-relationship where I like the idea of him being in my life more than I liked him as an individual. I think I've always put the cart before the horse, where I'm like, cool, we have a cart, yip-de-doo. But, like the cart can't go anywhere without a horse. And I just never think about the horse. I'm like, no, it's fine. We'll buy a horse eventually. Let's just have a cart because that's the important thing that has all the stuff, And it really is a thing that I experience thinking about now and being honest, where I'm like, no, I think I just like the idea of having love in my life as opposed to actually the reality of having love in my life, or romantic love. Let me not just say love, because love is a very big word and it covers multiple things, but like having romantic love in my life. And because maybe I haven't experienced a real, reality of romantic love, I continue to just make this thing bigger and bigger. Like I keep feeding the monster. Maybe life is trying to tell me that this isn't for you, and like you're not necessarily meant to be in love, but you're meant to be around it, observing it, admiring it, and appreciating it. I've been thinking about this, especially in this whole like trying to decenter romantic relationships journey, because that's kind of where it's playing in my mind, in my mind. Anyway, let's get into some facts, because technically I should have probably said what I just said at the end of the podcast, but it's my podcast and you're listening, so I'm driving. You don't have the mic, I have the mic. Anyway, so a couple of the headings that I addressed was why romantic love is placed over other types of love, the impact of prioritizing romantic love, and it's what it does to self-confidence, and how to shift perspectives and reclaiming other forms of love. Those are the other kind of headings that I was kind of leading to. And the reason I think I did need to go on my little tangent is because through this podcast, I would like to kind of leave with a more positive message as opposed to just hitting y'all with story time. So let's go into why romantic love is placed over other types of loves. So C.S. Lewis defines the 4 loves as the following. Affection, which is storge, it's familiarity and comfort, as in love between family members, so familial love. Friendship, which is philia, it's love between friends based on shared interests and goals, etc., whatever makes you friends. Eros, which is romantic love or passionate love between lovers. Come on, lovers. And then charity, which is agape, which is unconditional love, often considered the highest form of love. So agape love is the love that we get from God. So that's how he defines it. C.S. Lewis himself also acknowledges that people generally do elevate eros over other forms of love. This is also not helped by the fact that in like modern entertainment and content in the various spaces, we have media, particularly romance novels and films, creating idealized and often unrealistic depictions of romantic love. Romance stories often center on finding the one and achieving happily ever after, leading to an unrealistic expectation of real life. Examples being things like Pride and Prejudice, where romantic love overcomes all obstacles, The Notebook and Titanic, where love is portrayed as grand and eternal, setting unrealistic standards. The fantasy of perfect love, where romance media implies that love will solve all problems, reinforcing that romantic love is the highest form of connections, often promotes physical perfection and idealized emotional intensity, leading to unrealistic expectations as well. The disconnect between fiction and reality, because real life relationships don't match the fantasy, leading to disillusionment or disappointment. Real love involves compromise and effort, which is often overlooked in media portrayals. Now, I, being the complicated overthinker that I am, got to that point and decided to myself, I figured it out, guys. I know how to do real love. Let's just be practical first. It's still wrong. I know it's still wrong. But yeah, anyway. So, yeah, it's exactly that. It's that this is happening. Like, it's all around us. It's not necessarily just me making a decision. This is what's going on in the world. Like, people elevate romantic love and all of the results of romantic love just generally, like it's just how the world sees things. So why does eros dominate? Romantic love appeals because of its intensity and emotional excitement, which seems more valuable than the quieter forms like friendship or family love. Media reinforces the idea that romantic love equals success and personal validation. C.S. Lewis's view, on the other hand, is the following. He has cautioned that romantic love can become tyrannical if worshipped. He warned that when eros becomes a god, it can distort our views and relationships. A quote that he says is, "Love, having become a god, becomes a demon." And I think that's what it is with romantic love in the world that we live in, is because, like, one example that I did use when I was in that other podcast episode was, for a very long time, I watched a lot of content where it was like, okay, cool, love is equated to happiness and love, or like being in love and happy while being in love was equated to sex. Where it's, especially in like the old sitcoms, some of the best TV back in the days, it would be a thing where a couple would resolve things and be like, oh my gosh, now we had a fight and now we fixed it. Let's have sex because that means we're happy. You know, like all of these distorted views of what like real romantic love should look like. And if that's all you're consuming and you're never interacting with the real thing, it can get a little murky, which is kind of, I think, where my brain is kind of floating at the moment. And now we're going to get to the real realities of why I needed to do this episode. The impact of prioritizing romantic love on self-confidence. So self-worth, linked to romantic validation, which is obviously a bad thing. It's an overemphasis on romantic love that makes people measure their worth by their romantic status. Societal norms reinforce the pressure to be in a relationship as validation of personal value. And this is true. I mean, I don't know how many times I've experienced, or just we live in a world that, I don't think I have to explain this to anyone who's listening to this, but where being chosen by somebody just automatically means you have more value. You know, like, it's kind of like, okay, cool, someone chose you. I mean, even not necessarily for forever, but someone chose you. And simply because you were chosen, you are now important. And there's so many TV shows, reality shows, like just various things that are constantly in the quest for love. I mean, we are out here on the internet trying to find a partner and connection. And like I think a lot of people, and I don't know, maybe me as well. I'm not going to sit here and like not put myself in that group. But a lot of people find that like being like one person choosing you and only you kind of adds a level of value to you that no one can ever take away. So yeah, it can screw at you, y'all. it can really mess with you, because if you are out here talking about the fact that your value and everything that you are is linked to whether someone chooses you or not, then what happens when no one chooses you? Does that mean your value goes down? It really does. It screws with your self-confidence. It screws with your mental space. It screws with how you move through the world. So, yeah, speaking to limerence and self-esteem, limerence can lead to a low self-esteem when feelings aren't reciprocated, when individuals viewing unreturned affection as personal failure. So that's the thing about a crush, unfortunately, is the fact that, especially if it's hard and intense, like a limerence crush where it's obsessive, is you start to take responsibility for that person not liking you back, despite your real, deep, intense feelings towards them. Even though technically a part of you should know deep down inside that these feelings aren't I don't want to say they're not real, because that would be invalidating real feelings, but they're not, let me say they're not realistic, rather, instead of saying not real. They're not realistic, because at the end of the day, this person never signed this contract. You're dating yourself. You're just dating an idea of someone, but that idea came from yourself. So, it's kind of like, it's a weird thing where you can't hold anyone accountable for having your heart broken when you have a crush, simply because you were by yourself in the relationship in the first place. I say these hard truths because these are hard truths I need to probably record and put on the internet so that I can listen to this later and shout at myself. But anyway, and yeah, it can feel like a personal failure. The really funny thing, though, is I feel like I'm not even at a place where I feel personal failure anymore, but maybe it really is just so deeply ingrained, because I do think the older you get, the easier it is to hide your disappointment, like the easier it is to take the blows, like things that affect you and make you sit in sadness and depression for a couple days, hit you hard, but the hit isn't it doesn't felt as deeply anymore. You know what I mean? I might have some really deeply ingrained self-confidence issues that might play out in weird and ugly ways when I end up in a relationship. I don't know, but I just realized that my crushes don't hurt as badly as they used to, when they end, or when the object of my crush starts dating someone or falls in love or whatever it is. I don't know if it hurts as much anymore. But maybe it's just I've dealt with so many of these disappointments that it's just who I am now. Jeez, that got dark. Ugh. That's sad. Anyway, but, we're talking. We're growing. I'm fine. Anyway, so, and then another thing is obviously the role of comparison. Constant comparison with the idealized relationships in media leads to feelings of inadequacy or loneliness, especially when real-life relationships don't measure up. Yeah, I've never had a situation where I've had a real-life relationship not measure up. Yeah, I didn't. Because with the situation with my ex, where it was, I wasn't dating him, but I was dating the potential of what we could be, I don't think I ever really came into the reality of what the relationship was. I think I lived in my little dream plane. I lived in my limerence plane because it's where I was comfortable. It's what I knew. It's what I understood. It's all I knew about romantic relationships. So it's kind of weird. I might have to unlearn a lot of things. I really do pray, Heavenly Father, for this poor man you send into my life that has to deprogram me. I really am cool. I promise you I'm not crazy, future husband. It's just, it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, that all being said, and the mess and chaos of what I just spoke about, I'm coming back to the space where I'm talking about I have to decenter romantic relationships and realize that there's so much value in all of the other relationships in my life. The thing that I do at least want to own and say is the fact that I am quite well-rounded in terms of having other relationships in my life. I have family I truly love. I have friends who I love and love me back. And my life is full. It really is. I'm not a loner who's longing for human connection. If anything, I have too many friends. So I'm not starved in that way. So I think it's about just revaluing friendships and affection. Friendship, which is philia, and affection, which is storge, provide deep emotional support and consistency, often lasting longer than romantic relationships. Focus on self-love. So agape or unconditional love, not just for others, but also for oneself, is key to building self-worth outside of romantic validation. So those are things that are very important to think about and talk about and really just internalize. Is I'm loved by God. I'm loved by my family and friends. And I have all of the other loves. Like, I am 75% there in terms of what I need and how I need it and all of that stuff. It's just the fact that I am here, valued, and have that level of importance that I put on romantic love. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm completely figured out. I'm not saying I know how I'm going to do this. I'm just saying that I genuinely want to try. Give it a good old heave-ho. Because honestly, this is getting exhausting. Like, I can't now position myself to be chatted up everywhere I go. I can't now look at a boy and be like, ooh, we'd be cute to get. No, I'm tired. Also, dating is exhausting, guys. Also, dating in 2024, the year of our Lord 2024. Guys, it's a mess. It's not safety. But I'm not obviously dissuading from romantic love. I just think I personally need to just work on my view of it and realize that if it's not in my life, it's not meant to be in my life right now. You know? And when it's meant to be, it will be, if it will be. Because that's another thing we also take for granted, is we all automatically just think that we're all going to end up in a relationship at some point in our lives. And maybe it's not the thing that is happening in your life. Maybe it's not, you know. But yeah, so I'm trying to have a more balanced view of Eros, romantic love. It should not eclipse other forms of love. Building friendships, nurturing family bonds, and loving oneself are equally important for living a balanced life. So, yeah, I'm thinking of strategies and ways of decentering romantic relationships. And I don't even know if there's necessarily strategies to it. I think it's more just living more in the reality of where you're at than living in the potential of where you could be. You know, like, the potential of where you could be is only pushing you forward and keeping the ambition alive, but it's not who you are, what you are, and what you got right now. Like, you can dream, but sometimes I have this tendency of, like, spending so much time in the dream that I forget that I have to actually make the dream happen. And I don't mean it in romantic relationships. I mean this in life in general, including, you know, romantic relationships, where it's like, I'm not on the dating apps. I'm not doing all of those things, even though I really want this thing. But I'm also just like, it doesn't feel natural to me. It doesn't connect to me personally as a person. So I need to also understand that if it's going to be the thing, then I need to realistically chase the thing. But if it's not going to be the thing, then take care of all the other things. You know? Deep words, baby. Deep words. Yes. But yeah, so just to recap on the key points of what I spoke about in this episode and the lovely little waffle I had. Limerence, as we said, it's a deep, like, emotional obsession. Like, it's a crush, but, like, on a deep and real level. Like, it really affects your dopamine and everything that it is. How romantic love is elevated over other forms of love, and why that probably isn't okay and might not do very well for you, especially if you suffer from limerence. And yeah, how obviously it can affect your self-confidence and how you move through the world and how you feel about
yourself and whether you are where you're supposed to be. Because that might be another reason why I'm out here being scaredy cat, not letting Braverisk TM free. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I really do just want to encourage everybody listening. And once again, thank you for listening. But I do want to encourage you to just think about it. If you are in a relationship, that is beautiful and that is great. But how are you doing in taking care of the other loves in your life? Maybe that is what I should be encouraging everyone to do. I just thought of this now, so go with me. But I think we should all make a concerted effort to make sure that all 4 of the loves that are supposed to be flowing through our lives are being taken care of, nurtured, growing. You should be having your philia love. So you should be having good friendships, real, like solid friendships. You should be having storge, where you have like familial, like, wait, no, philia is family. Storge, I can't remember, I'm confusing them. Anyway, family and friends. Take care of your family and friends. Make sure you have good and strong connections with those people. And have agape in your life where you believe in something bigger than you, a deity or something that like restores and holds you true to your North Star. These are my beliefs, of course. What you choose to believe is up to you. And then, of course, there's Eros, which is romantic love. If you do have romantic love in your life and you are blessed with it, then take care of it, nurture it, but also make sure that you're constantly, like feeding all of the loves, because they all make you like a completely balanced and like complete human being. I genuinely think this episode was more just like a therapy session for myself so I could talk these things out. Also, my throat is sore. How long have I been talking? My word. Anyway, yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. I recorded another episode. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. This was one of my more random episodes that I wanted to record just because I liked the topic and I wanted to talk about it. And pray for me, y'all, because I genuinely would love to get to a place where I don't see romantic relationships as the goal, but I do think it's so deeply ingrained within me that it's something I have to actively make an effort, like, to not do. Also, probably I should stop watching romantic shows and things like that. But, yeah, guys, I'm a work in progress. Let's just say that. This has been a potential podcast with Tracy Lee. I pray this podcast and I both live up to... That is not how that goes. Let's try that again. This has been a potential podcast with Tracy Lee. I pray this podcast and I live up to our potential. Thank you for listening. Love you. Bye.